Hello, everybody. So I just finished listening to the full conference call of Crowdstrike, and the CEO gave long-term guidance and repeated that long-term guidance multiple times. And he said that we can expect some quality revenue growth, and we can expect ARR revenue ending full fiscal year of 2026, that is in March 2026, exactly 3 years from now, to be about $5 billion in ARR. And so that's very helpful for me because I can do a calculation as to what the return could look like. So $5 billion in ARR for full fiscal year 2026. What that means is that would be probably about $5.3 billion in revenue because Crowdstrike has consistently about 5 to 6% of other revenue, miscellaneous items. And therefore, it would be about $5.3 billion in revenue that we can deduce out of the ARR that was guided by the CEO multiple times on the call. And so that's very, very helpful because what I see here, so we know that fiscal year 2023 was 2.2 billion, right? That's the actual number. Fiscal year 2024, which is annual year 2023, the current year, we know that they guided $3 billion, right? And then in 2026, we know that they guided about 5.3 billion per my estimate, adding the other revenue. And so my estimate is that for 2025, it's a halfway point. My estimate would be about $4.1 billion. So we can see if we average this out, the sandbagged guidance, right? I believe this guidance is very sandbagged given the macro. In fact, they said it on the call. In fact, they'd rather be prudent because of the macro. We're still at 30% growth year over year on average. And so a very simple calculation here is that Crowdstrike's valuation right now, which is depressed compared to what it used to be, because this market absolutely hates growth, absolutely hates innovation. So their multiple right now, price to sales multiple, is a 14. And so with a 14 multiple and with 14 price sales multiples and $5.3 billion worth of revenue, we can multiply them and we get a market cap in March 2026 of potentially $74 billion. So today's market cap is $29 billion. So we'd go in 3 years from $29 billion market cap to $74 billion. So my back of a napkin calculation tells me it is about a 2.5 times in 3 years, assuming that they don't dilute the shareholder very much. And it looks like it's going to be 2%. And on the call, the CEO said they might even do some buybacks sometime in the future. Therefore, that would be a 31% annual, average return, annual return per year compounded over 3 years, which is above my threshold for this channel, which is the type of stock that I seek to invest in. And again, very, very simple calculation. And I know exactly what I'm going to hear. Oh, but how do you know the price to sales multiple is going to stay at that level? Well, I would argue the chances are that it goes up are pretty high, because by 2026, to me, we would be back in a risk-on environment. I believe the Fed is going to pivot. That's why I named the channel Beat the Denominator, because it's one of my strongest beliefs that the Fed is going to pivot, but adjust based on your macro thesis. But just know, historically, right, this stock has had a bunch of PE compression recently, very, very, very much so, because even in the earlier days of this stock, it was still trading between 20 and 30 price to sales for quite a while if you go back. And actually, if you average it out, it's higher than that, because it had a price to sell as high as the 50 price to sell back in 2021. Now, maybe that was a little overextended, some would argue, but I would argue that 14 is way too low for a company that could grow, that has a potential to grow, oscillate, whose revenue growth could oscillate between 30 and 50% throughout this decade, right? If you look at their investor presentation, you can see the total addressable market is absolutely huge, and they are doing better than their competitors. They are absolutely leading and increasing their market share. But furthermore, right, there's more to say, right? We know over the long run, if Crowdstrike, say it says 10 years from now, is a company that is, say, the size of a sales force, obviously that price to sales ratio is going to re-rate at some point. So I wanted to look at over the very long term, what would be a reasonable price to sales ratio for a company like Crowdstrike. And so Crowdstrike defines itself among other cloud companies are as the security cloud, right? The cyber security cloud is Crowdstrike, and they compare themselves against other category leaders like the HR cloud Workday, other customer relationship management cloud, Salesforce. So these are all category leaders, and that's who they aspire to be for the security world, for the security cloud. And so I think it's helpful to look at what price to sales these companies have to estimate what over the very long run, not in 3 years, but over the very long run, the price to sales could be. And when I look at that, and keep in mind, these are today's valuation, which are very depressed. All of these companies are innovation companies. So CRM started 12 years earlier, so they're 12 years ahead of Crowdstrike, and they have a pretty low price to sales ratio at a 6 times price to sales. As a note here, Microsoft price to sell is a 9. So I think it's important to note that. ServiceNow is 7 years ahead of the security cloud, and they have about a 12 times price to sales, and Workday is about 6 years ahead and is an 8 times price to sell. So, I think I'm being conservative by saying that the price to sell for Crowdstrike 6 years from now would probably be a 10x, 10 times price to sales ratio, which would not take valuation down that much, right? Because we're at a 14 right now, and my calculation are for 3 years from now. This 2.5x potential back of a napkin with price to sales calculation is for 3 years from now. So the point I'm making is the price to sell is not going to go down as fast as most people think if we compare this company to its peers. And lastly, I want to end, now that I listened to the conference call, to some of the catalysts that I see for the next 3 years from Crowdstrike. I did not highlight that in my prior video. But first of all, the biggest catalyst to me for all growth stocks that I cover on this channel is that they will be re-rated by 2026. I believe risk on will come back. I believe in the Fed pivot, despite whatever Powell bluffed or argued in front of Congress today. I believe in a Fed pivot, so that will greatly help growth stock. Then you have the medium-sized businesses market that may be booming by 2026. They are seeing a lot of progress selling to SMBs. Then what else? You have Falcon that is about to be shipped with Dell laptops and Dell products pre-installed. And so what that means is that it will just be a click away for whoever buys a Dell equipment to just turn on Falcon and use Falcon. Then they introduce a lot of products each time. They try to cross-sell products, but they did say a lot about their Zero Trust identity product, and that identity product seems to be picking up. So who knows how many more products over than endpoint securities will have that pickup. And then this is something that analysts were very excited on the call, but the CEO told a story and discussed with analysts multiple times how they're gaining share against Microsoft. And a lot of people, Microsoft is kind of a low-cost leader in the field, but Microsoft is not optimal, and so they seem to be gaining share against Microsoft per the call and per what the CEO was saying. And lastly, I'll conclude with this. This company has an AI/data-driven moat, right? The more data they get, the better their AI is, and the better their AI for endpoint security is, the more customers they get. And so as this flywheel kind of keeps going, they may be beyond reach of competitors because they have even more data. So we're talking about a moat for Crowdstrike that could be based on how much data they have, which could be one of the strongest moat kind of in the economy that we're headed in the second half of the 2020s, where data becomes an essential part of competitive advantage and not just competitive positioning. So I believe this is all very bullish from Crowdstrike, and I am very happy about the 3-year target. Hopefully you like the video. Not investment advice at all. This is not investment advice, just entertainment. Thank you for watching. Appreciate your likes and your subscribes. Have a great day.